Hey, Bublynn, coming in, crushing this art. Hey, so we're back at it, and we're talking about basically dimensions and like being through that. So basically, first dimensionally to start off with would be being internally, and this would be so basically, but it's like almost externally. It's almost without form, without shape, right? Like in form, right? Like it's not like with form, like you be with form, and then the in form would be like information. So like in would more so be like the yin. But anyway, so first dimensionally, that would be the yang, which would be almost the x, like the place, like the what, like what you're resonating with on a wave. Like if you look at it as a wave, the repetition, how many times you're going to stick to that would be the yin, but then how high or how low, basically backwards, how high or how low you do that would be the yang, what you're resonating with, like the x, the external, how far out there, and like where you're at up here. But then the very internal would be how many times or how dense that is, or how much with basically nature, right? Because it's like basically nature would be the very internal, right? What the substance we're in this space, whereas the very external, the spirit we're bringing down here and utilizing, would be the X, what like our dreams, our illusions, or slash delusions, depending. So yeah, so basically, first dimensionally would be that yang, that internalizing like a cell, utilizing the wave of our body, our genetic blueprint, right? And then just taking on a role, responsibility within that in order to utilize the mind to have its own space, you know what I mean? But then second dimensionally would be like organ, right? Having like a responsibility, right? Like if an organ doesn't work for you, that's going to be a fucked up shit, right? And then if you have fucked up organs, they're going to be taken out, you know what I mean? Like, and there's so much cells that rely on this, right? Like yeah, basically. So those brain centers will be like a relationship sort of thing where they're peering out, but at the same time, like being a part of a crew, for example, you don't necessarily have an ability to have your own save, right? But you do still have competence and authority over something that is externalizing, that is relating, versus a cell riding a wave, doing its job within a wave, within a organ. You know what I mean? So yeah, and then the third would be when you finally have the expression, and that when you can bring the Pluto out through almost like the sun, through a light, through an illusion slash delusion, you know what I mean? Verse, you're lost in another light's illusion or delusion, first dimensionally, riding a wave, just purely looking in and expanding on what you're going to be through that, or second dimensionally, actually doing what you're doing through that and kind of resonating with whatever pocket you're resonating with or going through organ wise at the time being, you know what I mean, in order to fully develop like a solid idea to externalize as a being. So that would be like one, two, and three. And then fourth dimensionally would then be going into organizations and like time. So once you finally have a pocket to look out, that is almost like air. It's unsolid. So then if we look at this elementally, first, like fire, purely to itself, not necessarily needing any solidity because it's riding a wave. If you are a fucked up cell, you're just going to be thrown out. Path of the Fool, just learning. Two, organ having more responsibility. If you are fucked up, right, you are going to get thrown out, but this matters, right? This is going to be like a loss. So this is going to be in more negative pockets karmically. Um, yeah, so basically that would be more yin though, taking a shape or form, taking a responsibility, resonating with something like I want to see or I want to protect. I want to like give structure. I want to give security to, right? So I want to see eyes. I want to protect skin. I want to give structure to bones. You know what I mean? I want to. I wanna engage. You know what I mean? Touch. I wanna communicate. You know what I mean? Speaking like vibration, hearing. You know what I mean? All these things like so either way, so this would be then externalized as like just an experience, you know what I mean? But either way, once you get to a solid third dimensional being like ourselves, this is when you start learning about time and experiencing those principles on a whole nother level. So then we have like sight, like illusion, like picture, um, almost like rationality in a way, where you can go, right? Like, yeah, I guess it would more so be aim, like action, yang, um, Mars. But yeah, but either way, so either way. So a fourth dimensional thing would be more so once you finally develop a pocket within your third dimensional space that can be something you can inhabit. Like for example, like a legacy or a name or a position, right? Like for example, a company in a neighborhood or like a farmer in a neighborhood, right? Something like this then ends up becoming something that's relied upon, or like a craftsman or an artist, right? It would, I feel like more so like artist, right? Because then when you start getting to like the farmer, right? Then when you get into that farmer spirit, like or that artist spirit, that's when it more so becomes like fifth dimensional, and you start thinking about then working with the community and not so just being your own internal agent. Like it would almost be like internal, like homesteader, purely developing its own stuff and utilizing its own like power and going in and like figuring out what it wants to do and like being lost in X, Y, and Z and not necessarily having a path, would then be its own fourth dimensional organization if like it finally secures itself, right? If it doesn't die, if it finds success. So that would be fourth dimension, and then the fifth dimension will be when you're actually like giving back, you're associating with the community, you become an organization, you know what I mean, and you're actually learning what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. And this, I feel like, this all goes back to where we are today as people, because if we look at, um, then third dimensionally, just wanting to express yourself and finding your individuality and getting lost in things, this goes down to how you as a being can find pleasures or associations or people, places, and things in order to relate with, in order to find a sense of who you could be, right? And this will be working through the environment, working through what's given, working through earth, working through influence in order to do something new, in order to have an experience, right? And then once you find an experience that's solid, this would then become when it becomes like a fifth dimensional thing or something you're going to attach to or something that's going to be judged or something that's going to be solid. So that, but like all of that, and that's when it would become something that's working with the world, that's not fully internalized, that's not fully just riding away, that's not fully just like expressing yourself or just like finding yourself in a way or getting lost in something. Like once you start like connecting with something and solidifying that, that's when it becomes something that's going to be seen and is going to start to express itself, right? And that's basically where we're lost into, because if we think about um, just just where we're at today, like that just connects to having an organization and being able to take advantage of it for your own means, like verse just third dimensionally or fourth dimensionally, like securing who you are. Then once yeah, just learning about who you are, well, like, because the third dimension will be like the egg, and then the fourth dimension will be just like pure like power and organization, a solid idea, and then the fifth dimension will be, yeah, like the solidity when you start having the engagement with the community, or start having like a solid organ within a community, or you start being like a competent part of like the farmer in a community, right? Whereas once you start just becoming your own person, this would be fourth dimension, when you can just carry your own weight. Fifth dimension, when you start becoming a weight of other people, like a pillar of the community type. Um, yeah, and so basically that, like when that is what we're lost into, because that's taking advantage of that. So like, for example, like we are talking about, if we go back to the second dimension, if you're like an organ in like in a vessel, right? If you resonate with just taking all the energy for yourself and being lost into your own internal illusion, your own yang, your own Pluto, your own death and rebirth, your own creativity, your own expression, then you're gonna suck up all the energy of that network, and you're gonna sabotage. You're gonna be diluting, yeah, and you're going to take down the whole system to where that's no longer going to work, right? And so karmically, this is going to resonate with like more fucked up people, people that shouldn't be seeing, people that shouldn't be hearing, people, you know what I mean? And 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 yeah, so basically, and then also you would lose your life, right? You would learn the lesson of having a shorter life, having a shorter time in order to utilize that, and having to start all over again. You know what I mean? Having to learn that lesson. You know what I mean? So that's when it goes down to like why you end up becoming a third dimensional being, because you can hold that competence, because you understand you can utilize that for your internal dream. But it takes this sort of waxing and waning type thing to where like you have this time spent in your internal dream, but you have to also bring all that energy back in order to be like become a competent leader, right? But that's where it becomes like a sort of developing your own internal psyche in a healthy way, so that that gives fruit instead of like becoming like a parasite. You know what I mean? So, so yeah. So if we go back to the third dimension, once you saw it become a solid thing, fourth dimension when you're actually sustainable, and then fifth dimension once you become a pillar of the community. When you're learning about that, that is just like a lot more power, but it's at a level where that's going to be judged. So this is at a level where you're automatically learning lessons, because you're automatically have responsibility on you. You're automatically there's weight here. And then so like we're talking about, in order to become a third dimensional thing, you have to learn every lesson. In order to have that balance, you have to utilize the yin and yang in a way, in order to know that you're going to be taking in as much as you're going to give out, which on a like a cellular level just means you're going to be um like like sharing and expressing and moving through the network as much as you're going to be taking and utilizing yourself. It's almost like just like distributing resources evenly, you know what I mean? Or just like properly, like just keeping everything healthy, maintaining, you know what I mean, learning lessons. Because it's like if you are an eyeball, you know what I mean, and you're just like fucking up, you just got a mind of your own, you don't fucking care about any other part of the organ, then obviously you're probably associating with someone that is diluting in some way, at least with vision and like where they're going, you know what I mean? Like probably what they see and where they're trying to go is may not necessarily the best place. So you resonated with a vision that's not necessarily the best either, and now you're sucking up all of this energy for your own vision that's no longer helping the good, and you externalize as a cancer, as like but like not necessarily like a cancer, like you make the whole eye a hub of cancer, so it has to be like taken out completely, you know what I mean? And that would be like a lesson you have to learn, because then you'd find all this resistance, right? And resistance will play out as like a learning over like periods of that, over periods of you resonating with people that have negative visions and that do lose their vision, or that do not make it, you know what I mean? So until you get to the point where you realize that there's good with the relationship principle, that there's good, or that there could be gain from teamwork, or in a crew, that if you do good for a system, or do good for like a more fifth dimensional or like a higher dimensional thing, that you can also utilize that energy on your own thing. It's just more like this yin and yang thing, right? With the two thing, where you have to learn about the tides, where you have to put in order to get back. You know what I mean? If you're fully internal, then you're always going to stay a cell, and you're always just going to have a dream that's going to blimp in and out, because you never fully pulled any energy in to utilize. You never made a wave. You never gained influence. You know what I mean? So, so basically, yeah. So if you don't do that, then how that would play out if you're still learning that lesson on our level, third and fourth dimensionally, and fifth dimensionally, then you're a pillar of the community, and you're gaining all this power, you have all this influence, but it's still not going for something that is lifting up the community. And this is going to play out in a way that it's just gonna like create delusions. It's gonna make you cast stones. It's gonna make you advertise what you have as more than it's not, and stuff like this. But once you get past this and you can reroute all this energy into the community, that's when I feel like you would start having like six-dimensional things. You'd start having more like solid, um, in the next level type thing, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you would start being able to learn on a level that's more concrete than just the flesh. You know what I mean? So, um, so yeah, but that's why either way. So 1, 2, and 3 would basically be one internal, two relating, and then three like being your own, being able to externalize, like having structure, and then 4 like power within that, right, being able like within that structure, within that way you're gonna do that. 4 having your own way of gathering resources or sucking in order to express, being your own powerhouse, right? And then 5 being a pillar of relating with the higher network, right, becoming like a organ within like a nation or within community or within something like that, right? And then being relied upon, like having responsibility, being judged, stuff like this. And then the sixth would then be where you're giving back and you have the whole power on a whole nother level, because when people come into you, they get something out, and you're also gaining through the fact that they're utilizing your system in a way. So that would be like on a whole nother level, just like through authority, how they're utilizing like government, for example. Like just because like it's like the 5 is what's messed up. The judgment, the relationships, the organizations is what's messed up. But the fact of a nuclei and a people or a sheeple, like stuff like this, is always going to be the case. But what's messed up is the fact that right now it's just utilized in a more Loki type way. But then um, yeah. But either way, yeah. So then the first, second, third, fourth, the fifth, the judgment would just be what we're kind of learning about. You know what I mean? Is how each pillar and how each thing is utilizing its resources either for itself independently or giving that back externally in order to be a solid structure that can just um, be relied upon like beyond one person, be something to be looked up to, be something to leave a legacy, right? Like leave an impact of a name that is just looked up to beyond one person, because they set that bar so high, you know. But either way, so that's a little bit about things. A Bublynn, Sitra, Beach, out.